Just comb your hair, go and wash your face. It's been a real long time since you've seen the light of day. So let thoughts come as they may, beauty and parade. Everybody all smiles when you're back in the seat again. On board the Petty Express to a beautiful darkness. It's full steam ahead to ride the rails to our next destination. Yeah!
Howdy, howdy, everyone. Well, I'm hoping I get that water into wine thing if I do get translated, but I'm just not sure that it's going to happen. And I don't think I can keep the Disney princess voice going. Look, I have a lower voice for a chick. I deal with it. I dig it. And Lori is crazy. Welcome to the Petty Express. If you're new here, we do trials with flair, sass, and curse words. Also wigs. And thank you, Tammy Fayette, for being a member for 10 months. Just at the right time. Yeah. Well, actually, this was one that I had gotten for Lori when I thought, quite naively, that I would, stream Karen Reed during the day and then do Lori Vallow at night. Now, that was what we like to call foolish. As always, I am eternally optimistic in my, I can do just 120 more things with my current time allotment. It never works out, but I love that I'm always positive. Past me is always so certain that future me is going to be able to accomplish miracles. And I dig that about me. That being said, my inner voice can be a sarcastic see you in two, or see you next Tuesday too. So it swings and roundabouts. And thank you, Tammy Fayette, for the super chat for the wig fund. I appreciate it so much. Actually, I might not be buying wigs for a while because once I open up the shameful 2 boxes, I will probably feel like I have just a gajillion. I'll feel like a kid in a candy store. I won't have to buy stuff because I'll be like, oh, I forgot I had this wig. And oh my gosh, she's a beauty. And hello, ma'am, I've missed you. Mr. Mo doesn't know that I secretly hope for my wigs. That's why there's been a delay on the Sarah Boone Boonathon, because Mr. Mo has gently asked me to not open up any more wigs before, we actually get my room done. And having seen how chaotic his room has become just in the little bit that I've had it, I see the wisdom in that. Just not making a giant mess. Oh, dear Lord. Yeah, we have family coming in tomorrow. So Mr. Mo and I are trying to do that, okay, huddle. All right, you take care of this room, and this room. You see, so what's the problem is that Mr. Mo, the shift in the relationship, where my biggest task on big days is to rest and not to do a whole bunch so that my, Hagatha and the artist formerly known as both legs will be good. And holy crap, the feeling of putting on a wig when you're not used to having a wig for a long time and you're not used to being blonde, I'm like, who is that? And yeah, it's that thing if you get a new haircut and then you walk past yourself and you're kind of like that dog in the mirror, like, and then you realize it's you. Anyway, apart from the stream of consciousness, we are going to tackle at least the opening statements in the Lori Vallow case in so much as we possibly can. Now, I did bump this chick up to 1.25. We might even go 1.5 because I don't know if it's Arizona. I don't know if I've gotten used to the Boston, very clipped New England sort of cadence, or the fact that Midwesterners tend to at least talk like we're trying to finish a sentence this century. But she is so flippin' flapjack slow. It is absolutely grating. So I like how she's presenting things. I like her story kind of narrative way that she's doing this opening statement. But she talks like that, you know, that Muppet that was in the band and like, we're with the band. I mean, she was obviously as Muppet form stoned out of her ever living mind. Like she surpassed both, you know, Joe Rogan and Cheech and Chong. She was out there. This woman talks that slow to me. And because I have ADHD, if you talk too slow, I love her. But okay, so I always wanted to be Miss Piggy if I was going to have to be a Muppet. I know the weird things I think about. That being said, the older I get, the more I want to be Agra from the Dark Crystal, or the more I'm feeling like I'm turning into Agra from the Dark Crystal. Like, or I wanted to be the chick Gelfling. I forgot her name. But Chick Gelfling if I had to be a Muppet, or Miss Piggy. And the older I get, the more I'm like, you know, Agra, you know, she sees everything. She sees all this shit coming. No one listens to her, and her boobs are falling down to her knees. I mean, she is the patron saint of middle-aged women everywhere. She gives no crap. She says what's on her mind, and she treats everyone like morons. I mean, honest to God, Agra is my spirit animal. Her and Weeza from Fried Green Tomatoes. Again, always thought I would be Truvy. Totally wanted to figure out this girl makeup crap thing that I fake my way through competently. I always thought I was going to be Truvy. Like, I wanted to be Truvy. I was going to learn how to be beautified and everything. I never wanted to be Daryl Hannah because look, I'm sorry for this actor. I don't mean to call you out your name, but they put Daryl Hannah with a man that looked like he came from Deliverance. Now, I can suspend my imagination for many things, but Daryl Hannah did not deserve to be put, you know, married to Cletus Joe Bob Hillbilly over here. Like, come on now. Come on now. The only problem I have with, you know, Steel Magnolias, not Fried Green Tomatoes. Steel Magnolias, that is the only thing I have a problem with that movie. Because I'm like, hell no, is Daryl Hannah with this mutant? No offense again to, I'm just saying, sir, like, that's like you're batting 3,000. Okay, so you should go to bed every night, you know, fictional guy, and thank your lucky stars that you got Daryl Hannah. And then you would have saved us from being, you know, Admiral Hodod. That being said, what was my point? Oh, I realize the older I get and the more life I see, I have definitely become Weeza, and I understand her. She is my spirit animal, and one day I too hope to go bar hopping as a nun. But let's get into this before we go into my life goals. And as Lori, as everyone knows, my name is Lori Vallow Daybell, and I did not conspiracy.
You will see on body-worn camera, Alex Cox, who's on with 911, come out of the house.
It is actually a nice wig without this whatever the hell she always does.
He actually has a pair of sunglasses resting on the top of his head. You'll see at some point, Alex sits down, and they ask him to move to another location. They talk to him for a while, and then you'll see him eventually touch his head a few times, and then he obtains a napkin or towel, something. And you'll see him at times rubbing his head, patting it. That is the only bloody item you will see. Those sunglasses on Alex's head. He is struck in the head by a baseball player while grappling on the ground. He then pulls out a gun and shoots his brother, puts away this gun, deals with his injury, and yet those sunglasses are still right there on the top of his head. No blood on the floors, no blood on the gun, no damage to the mirrors, bad on the wrong side. The lack of physical evidence to help support this self-defense claim. Next, trajectory. The medical examiner will talk to you about the trajectory through Charles's body. The detectives are going to talk to you about the trajectory through the room. Dr. Baumgartner will tell you that the trajectory of that first shot to Charles, the one that went through his chest.
It's not, no, it's pronounced translated. I am a translated being. I've not dabbled in trajectory yet. Currently, I am going to be my own lawyer because, well, if Jesus doesn't get me out of this, he said that I could get me out of this. You know, I was a hairdresser once, and between you, me, and Jesus, I make the best green chile enchiladas, and everyone should remember.
Through his heart and out his back, his front to back, and slightly downward. It will be less than an inch down.
Let me pull that up. If it hadn't rained all daggone day. Okay, so this happened in 2019. I knew it was either 2020 or 2019, but I didn't want to get it wrong. Yeah, no, it is color changing. So Tammy Fayette, you're not misunderstanding. Lori and Chad's cult is just ridiculous. So they accused Charles of being, God, what is it? He went dark. And according to them, when you go dark, you have a zombie or some sort of parasitic growth that is sort of taking autonomy of your. So it's kind of like a pod person. So basically, Charles's pod person was Ned Schneider. No idea what the hell is going on with that. Anywho, the only way to rid someone of this parasite, it's kind of permanent. But basically, the spirit is wanting to go back to kind of pre-existence or heaven. I am trying to learn LDS, but apparently there is like a pre-existence where souls wait to be born. You could remember this, and you do have a chance, if you want to, I guess, to have multiple lives. I have not one freaking flapjack clue. Again, not knocking LDS. Well, okay, except for when I say that Lori is a Mighty Morphin Power Mormon. But, I mean, honest to God, that's just funny. And you don't want people using Mormon anymore anyway. So how about I denigrate it more so people can just call you, LDS. I am simply helping move that train along. Anywho, oh dear Lord, sorry for all the squirrels, guys. Like I said, it has been raining and it is freaking cold now for May. And so I will try to keep on. Let's see. So basically, in order to rid the world of this zombie and also free the soul, you must kill the body. After, I believe Lori and her coven of Mormons, wizard Mormons, I don't know what the hell they were doing. Anyways, they tried 2 exorcisms on Charles. One with Charles there, I think, and then one where Charles, I guess it was like a telehealth appointment, a telehealth exorcism. Look, again, trying to make sense of this heifer's anything is just redonkulous in all of its glory. So it's like trying to understand the time variance versus when the hell are they going to tell us how this car hit, John? It's like, who knows? And welcome, Mr. Coop Raiders. Let's get back to her. Again, as much as I'm squirreling, I do like the way she tells her story. I am glad I sped her up.
The detectives will tell you that the bullet from that shot, actually, as it exited Charles's back, ended up across the room in the baseboard. They pulled it out and recovered it. Both of them will say that this shot is consistent with Charles being standing upright with a person in front of him. The gun could be slightly down, or his hand could cause that little bit of down.
And howdy, G14
Dr.
and
Baumgartner will
Heroes
tell you
Chris
that second
Painting
shot
Corner.
that entered Charles's abdomen and exited his left shoulder, that the trajectory of that shot was front to back and significantly upward, 13 inches upward. Dr. Baumgartner is also the one who will tell you about that shored wound. What you will hear from the detectives, though, is that when they found Charles on the ground, off to the side of his left shoulder was the other bullet on the ground, not embedded. They'll also tell you that when they finally moved Charles, they took his body away, they cleaned up the blood on the ground, and they noticed a defect in the flooring, in the wood, consistent with a bullet striking the ground. That defect was located where Charles's left shoulder had been. You will hear that both Dr. Baumgartner and the detectives found the trajectory. The wounds were consistent with Charles laying on the ground, Alex being at his feet when that second shot was fired. The physical evidence does not lie. Charles was on the ground when Alex Cox.
It was probably Lori Vallow. Again, Lori Vallow Daybell let me correct that for the Petty Express. Lori Vallow Dorkbell. Again, y'all, here's the part of the romance in the Chad and Lori thing that just I don't get. Again, correct me in chat if I'm wrong, but here's the problem with the Chad and Lori love story. Again, he picked her up at one of these, survivalist conferences that are apparently popular with LDS and preppers. And his, pickup line was like, we have been together for multiple lifetimes. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. You're telling me every lifetime you get to roll a new dice and you're like, oh, no, Fabio, no, Napoleon, no, anyone else, no, keep giving me, I would like to place my forever order on the guy that looks like a thumb with no chin, his head goes directly into his shoulders or into his throat, looks like if Peter Griffin lost a little weight and was real, the human thumb, every time you roll that one, Lori, God love you, you were committed. If any of this is true, you were committed to Chad, I'll give you that. Although still, that's the one you pick every time, like not even 90% off clearance, like with free candles and a true crime like audiobook, a smuxy one. Like not even with all of the Sailor Moon, merchandise in the world would I ever pick Chad Daybell.
Fired that second shot. The injuries to Charles, the location of the bullet strikes, the trajectory of the injuries both in Charles and in the house all show this was not self-defense. This was a staged murder scene. I told you that Lori Vallow left the house at 7:49 a.m., and we know this because of Charles Vallow's cell phone. The 911 call was placed at 8:36 a.m., 47 minutes later. The police arrived at 5531 South Four Peaks.
Okay, so there was totally a reason that happened. We had to pray. Alex being, part of the priesthood, he gave Charles his last rites. And it was a very holy experience being a translated being, though I, stepped in and personally astrally projected and guided Charles's, spirit into the Neverland. Ma'am, seriously, you think they can't figure out when Charles died versus when you call the police? It it boggles my mind that a translated being wouldn't think of these things, but I guess when have like godlike power-ups, you just, you don't think of the things that mere mortals and detectives and forensic people will think about.
Place at about 8:41 a.m. Lori Vallow and her daughter Tylee returned to the house at 8:48 a.m. When the police first contacted Lori Vallow, they thought she had no idea that her husband was dead, that he'd been shot and killed. Initially, you will see body cam footage of an officer going up and just getting her information. Lori doesn't ask, why are all these police here? Why is there a fire truck here? Why is my brother sitting on the ground over there? Or is he okay? Instead, she comments about her neighbors. You'll learn that the police then pulled her aside to do what they call a death notification, to let her know that her husband was dead. Only to their surprise, she told them she knew she was there. So at this point, the police knew they needed to take her to the police station and question.
Again, Arizona, please come to the front of the congregation and explain how anyone, and I do mean anyone, who hadn't stared directly into the sun during that solar eclipse, even though everyone said it not to, could not see on that body cam that something was hinky AF. Like, hee hee hee. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go full Lori. Because you know how she deals with men, even her brothers, which is weird. Again, weird to... And I love this jacket, even though it's a little big, because it's got all the Harry Potter stuff on the inside. But here, I'm not taking off anymore. This is not one of them channels. But she's like, oh my goodness. Oh dear me. My poor husband has died. Whatever will I do? Also, what will the neighbors think of me? I mean, who? Again, was there not one chick detective? Again, just any chick. Anyone with a uterus could see through this chick's pushing up the boobage, Oh my goodness, I was going to have a pool party. That kind of thing. I mean, anyone that watched that body cam had to be thinking, this looks real sus. I mean, otherwise, well, we are talking about the same county that is responsible for getting our election results in the speedy age of about a month. So, it is Maricopa County. Maybe their spidey sense just kicked in a month later.
Her. You'll learn that Lori Vallow was interviewed by the police. She was treated very kindly. The police asked her what happened. Lori Vallow told the police that she took Charles's cell phone. She admitted that she was the reason that Charles didn't just leave and take JJ to school. She told police in no uncertain terms that Charles was demanding his phone back, and she refused to give it back. She told the police that even as Charles screamed at her for his phone, she walked away from him, wouldn't give it to him. No matter what happened or what Charles said or did, she would not give his phone back to him. Lori told police that her daughter Tylee came out of the room during the screaming with a...
Charles, look, I'm not a judge or a lawyer, but I would have been okay with, making, like, if you could have done... Okay, does anyone know, is the Vulcan neck pinch a real thing? Because if it is, I have like multiple times we should use it, allegedly in Minecraft and only in Mortal Kombat on, Sega Genesis. But really, this whole lore, this thing would never happen if the Vulcan, sleepy hold was, look, I'm a Star Wars, not a Trek kind of gal, except for Deep Space Nine. For some reason, that one gets me. I can't explain it.
The bat. That Charles took it away from Tylee, and Tylee fell on the ground, and she told Tylee to go out to the car with JJ. She still didn't return the phone. She told police that Alex came out, that he and Charles got into this scuffle with the bat, that Charles hit him in the head with the bat. She still didn't give Charles back the phone. What she did instead was take his phone and go around that wall into the kitchen. Left the situation. Time to let brother Alex be Nephi. While she's in the kitchen, she said she heard the gunshot, came out, saw Charles on the ground, and her brother standing at Charles's feet. Then she told the police she left.
Yeah, because, look, I had just seen my fourth husband pass away, although his body was really a shell and it was Ned. And I really didn't know, and I wish I had known that he switched the beneficiaries. You guys, I swear to goodness, part of me wants to switch all the way and just go to the K part, because honest to goodness, if I could have a time machine, this is why I'm reckless, because if I really had a time machine, I would go back and make sure the Constitution was written in stupid so everyone could understand their rights, and make sure to preemptively, bar people from positive rights. Negative rights are things that don't affect other people. Positive rights are things where you have to take things from other people in order to have that right. Anywho, enough political talk because I'm a nerd. That being said, if I had a time machine and I had multiple trips and I could have frivolous trips, I would go back to the very moment, second, time, place, GPS coordinate down to the latitude, longitude by the second. Oh, yes, it can. So this is Lori Vallow Daybell's Arizona trial. You probably remember her if you do true crime. She was the doomsday mom who basically left a trail of, death behind her in order to live her life with her multi-lifetime husband, Chad Daybell. They not only offed their mutual spouses, but they also, unfortunately, sadly, heartbreakingly, Chad and Lori's brother Alex, who is no longer living, were implicated in the actual hands-on unaliving of Lori's adopted son, JJ, who had autism, but was fairly high functioning. I mean, he did have a service animal at some point. Also, her biological daughter, Tylee, just to get rid of them, we're not quite sure. Again, they had crazy beliefs. So there's Chad Daybell and Lori Daybell, and they're responsible for the deaths of JJ Vallow, Tylee Ryan, Tammy Daybell, and Charles Vallow. There might also be, there's some speculation on some others, but honestly, it's internet speculation. I don't do that unless I have a tinfoil hat. This case is interesting because this is sort of the first murder that can be pinned to this ultimate bigger scheme of getting together without their mutual spouses and living off the insurance, whatever else they call it. Now, this is kind of the murder that started everything. For a long time, Arizona had it listed as self-defense. Again, Alex was the one that pulled the trigger, but the state is going to try to prove that Lori was involved in the conspiracy in order to lure Charles into the house in order to keep him there and start an altercation that would give Alex plausible deniability to use, self-defense. even though anyone without, glaucoma could kind of take one and see that. For reasons known only to her and her God, Lori decides that even while being a pro se defendant, the baby ponytail most used by 3-year-olds is her style of choice for some GD reason. Also, this is the closest to Kool-Aid I get lipstick colors in, so I was like, I don't have any Kool-Aid, nor am I going to break into the popsicles, so I will try to find some louder colors as we go through this.
You'll learn that the police actually had no idea that Lori still had Charles's phone. Even when they're interviewing her, she still had it. Police are processing the house, looking for it. Where is it? They can't find it. Later in the afternoon, you'll hear that the police actually called Lori and Alex and asked them to come back to the scene. And when Lori arrived, they told her they couldn't find Charles's phone. And she told the detective that she found the phone in the car. Found it in the car. She gave Charles's phone to Detective Enclan and then provided her with Charles's PIN number.
Tammy Fayette, don't feel bad. Lori and I have the same birthday. I share a birthday with the greatest, well, it kicked off the sort of mass casualty events. I share a birthday with the McDonald's massacre. So, 'tis what it is. Also, David Hasselhoff so the Hoff is also next to me, and I wish he would simply remain, Hoff from Knight Rider, because he's kind of aged weirdly. And I don't mean any offense. I mean, if he thinks he's rocking it, that's great. Go you, David Hasselhoff. I guess he's real big in Germany for reasons only God and the Germans can understand. But again, I don't have to like it. If you like it, that is awesome.
To get into the phone. You'll learn that after those interviews in the morning, Lori and Alex went back to Alex's house in Santan. And there they went through Charles's phone. You'll learn that Alex actually took photos of some of the messages between Charles and Adam, including Adam's flight reservations. And he later sent those to his sister, Lori. July 11th. Lori didn't tell any of Charles's family he was dead. She didn't tell Adam that Charles was dead. She certainly knows they've been talking. The next day, Lori...
Oh, hey, Joe, now I am peanut butter and jealous. Also, can we talk about the baby bangs? Again, after you turn 50, Lori, I just think the baby ponytail in this. Anywho, I am peanut butter and jealous. Getty Lee Rush. Look, I'm not saying that part of me is wondering if I could focus youngest, most feral's energy into a drum set so we could have another Neil Peart. Or Peart. Peart or Peart. Look, I love him. His drum solo with him in the circle. Like, if I'm ever feeling bad, I will just watch that where he just played the drums for like 12 minutes. Look, him and Phil Collins, they play the drums for me. Whew. And Serene Owl, thank you. I'm so glad you made a live. I just figured people might need something to watch from court, and I really needed to use this wig because for some reason, one of my cats really loves it. He wants to eat it, and I needed to keep it safe. He doesn't go after the Judge Bev wig. Peart. Look, I will have to listen to it on YouTube and make sure that I get it right. Oh, and if you want to see something, look, again, ultra nerd moment and complete squirrel. But if you are having a bad day and you like South Park, which I really do, they have this 25th anniversary concert, and Matt Parker and Trey Stone They sing, and there's like a chorus in the back, and it has Kyle's mom, and it is just about the greatest thing I have ever seen since sliced bread. And Rush comes out, and oh gosh, what was it? I think it was Matt that just about geeked out. And it's so cool seeing people that you would geek out meeting get geeked out, because it just reminds you that they're just people. Which, again, I don't know where I was going with this. Again, welcome to the Petty Express, where we do snark, squirrels, and more squirrels.
Lori texted Charles's sons from his prior marriage and told them, "Your dad is dead." Charles's sons reached out to their Aunt Kay about this, and you'll learn that Kay and her husband had to Google this, see if it was true. They found out that Charles had been shot.
Also, I am sorry. And oh my God, you guys, okay, so I feel like an idiot if I text Mr. Mo to go get these, but Hobby Lobby has, they have, for some reason, I guess it's like a barnyard party set for kids or something. They have cow ears on a headband. So now when I need to call out a thunder cow or two, we have actual cow ears. And it was only $2, so Mr. Mo was like, "I'll allow it," which is always the best thing he ever says.
So what about the money? That life insurance policy. Charles Vallow had $1 million life insurance policy.
Oh, again, so I kind of lost my train of thought on the time machine thing, but I came to my way back to it. So I would pick the moment, the second, the latitude, longitude, down to, the second and microsecond, that, and again, because it's my fantasy, I'm going to have a real comfy chair. I'm going to have popcorn. I'm going to have Mike and Ike's. And Lori can't throw me out, nor can she see me. I'm just sort of a silent observer with all my snacky snacks. I want to be there the moment she found out she had been changed from the beneficiary. Stinger bell? No, actually, I tried to put it right about where we ended up on the last stream. I might have been a little off. We are going to try to get through this. I do have her at 1.25. I might push her up to 1.5 if that's not too fast. But I definitely want to get through her opening, and then Lori's. We did do Lori's as Legal Shenanigans Theater. Okay, Mr. Mo said I could only get one. I wanted to get two because my house is a battle zone with chaos. Rush had custom South Park videos in the beginning of their concert when they opened with Tom Sawyer. Oh, awesome sauce. Again, I know, it just, look, y'all, I mean, let's be real. A lot of us are in the same boat. We have not so great days, maybe pain days, maybe emotionally bad days, and we just want to find something to kind of take our mind off of it. So I do share those that make me feel good with you guys, because a lot of streams got me through, and that was one of them. And I hope to repay the favor every time I'm on. So that's my goal every time I'm on. But I will admit, and warning, I am a little bit squirrely today. Again, if you have ever had people coming over to your house and you're in the back of your mind mentally going over like the list of all the things that you're supposed to have, that's kind of what I'm doing. Again, in the end, is it going to matter if I have a Pinterest perfect, room set up or anything else? Or is it going to matter that we were there and we were all together? Yeah, well, that and the week of rain has not helped, I will say. That being said, let's get back to this.
When he got it, his wife, Lori Vallow, was the beneficiary. We know that Charles died on a Thursday, July 11th. That next Monday, July 15th, Lori Vallow called Banner Life Insurance. The call was recorded and you will hear it. She told the agent that Charles had been accidentally shot. It was an accident. And that she was the beneficiary. Both of those statements are not correct. There was nothing accidental about that shooting, and she was not the beneficiary. 3 days later, on July 18th, Lori Vallow learned that she was not the beneficiary. Banner Life Insurance could not and would not tell her who Charles had changed it to. But Lori was angry about it. And you're going to learn that on July 18th of 2019, there's another very important text message in this case. The first one on July 9th between Lori and Alex when they discussed being like Nephi. And on July 18th, 7 days after Lori and Alex killed Charles and Lori learned she is not getting $1 million life insurance policy, she sends a message to Chad Daybell. Quote, "So I talked to the insurance company. He changed it in March. So it was probably Ned before we got rid of him. You can't tell me who, of course, but it's done. I'll still get $4,000 a month from SS." In this text message, Lori tells Chad that it was probably Ned, that evil spirit inhabiting Charles's body, that changed the life insurance policy before they got rid of him, before they killed him. After Lori found out that she was not the beneficiary, she was so angry that she actually went through Charles's laptop, found the beneficiary change form, sent photos of that to Chad. She also confronted Kay about it. The $1 million she had expected to get was gone, but as Lori told Chad on the 18th, she was still going to get money from the death of Charles. Lori knew already that a month before going to see Social Security, how much money she would get for JJ and for herself as a caregiver as a result of Charles being killed. $4,000 a month.
This heifer, you know, it's amazing how much a goddess, a translated being, was so worried about earthly things, Lori. I mean, why are you worried about money? I thought you were going to go, like, hang out with Jesus as your homeboy. You know, so I will say that I do know the benefits for survivors are a little different than benefits for disability. I don't know why. I have never been a politician or worked with Social Security, but, you know, there is help if your partner, the, you know, biological father or mother of your child passes away, you do qualify for help. Now, as far as caregiver or widow, she would only get widow support until she got married. So because she and Chad got married about 2 weeks after, you know, 2 weeks after Tammy died, she would have immediately stopped getting those benefits. Now the children still get benefits, you know, until they turn 18 or finish secondary school. But to have coldly accounted this money, I mean, you know, she takes all these references from the Bible, but, you know, did she read that part about Judas taking his, you know, 30 pieces of silver and, you know, counting them out and realizing that they were worthless and he had betrayed, you know, the person that he was supposed to protect? I mean, the whole Bible is kind of about, like, not being attached to worldly things. Now, I haven't read the Book of Mormon, but I'm guessing it's kind of the same damn thing. And yeah, so for some, I need to change to my puppet face. And look, I'm not taking another one through Grok because y'all, let me see if I can pull it up. This is the first time I have ever had a tan in my damn life, and you can't take it away from me. Okay, let me pull this over here and make sure I'm going to do this right. Y'all, look at this Muppet me. I'm never changing it, ever. Look, she has a tan. She's glorious. Her room is not a mess, which, you know, again, maybe I would be better in puppet form. That being said, defame me any day as a Muppet. Now I want to go and figure out how they make Muppets and make my own Muppet of me. Look, it's a moped. I told Megan Fox, I was like, this is the first and only time I've ever had a tan. Defame me all day. It made my day.
Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence in this case is going to show you that Lori Vallow Daybell conspired with her brother, Alex Cox, to kill her husband, Charles Vallow. When Charles let Lori know he was coming into town, she quickly got the pieces into place. Alex came to her house with a gun. Lori created the way to keep Charles inside the house so that Alex and she could be like Nephi. To kill Charles Vallow to better, at least her life, so she could be with Chad and she could live off that life insurance policy. As we go through this trial, you will...
Madame, even without a life insurance policy, let's say, because it does kind of go based on the decedent's, income. Let's say it's, $4,000 like you calculated. I'm sorry, $4,000 a month, times 12 is 48,000. That's a fairly comfortable living. I mean, yeah, you might not be able to afford the mega mansion that you had when you were with Charles, but I don't think anyone would sneer at that. I mean, the absolute audacity must have been on clearance to think I deserve this and his life insurance. Just and to calculate, like, have an Excel sheet with your boyfriend slash brother. Again, I am not sorry anymore. That was a creepy relationship. I'm gonna call, balls and strikes. And there was something funky going on. Like they had chemistry like, Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton. There was something going on. Although, TBH, my favorite, look, anything with Dolly is great, but like the sparks and sexual tension between the two of them, just because we got something going on. And she was in that weird cone boob. I mean, them things look like weapons. I'm glad she's gone to like a normalish boob, but she had that cone. And I mean, sparks and sizzle. That being said, Dolly, our queen, is a lady and she was married. Thank you. I was dressing up as Lori. I will say it's a really nice wig when you take out the baby ponytail that she continues to wear past the age of 3. That being said, it is kind of weird. I don't recognize myself, so I keep, like, when I turn away and then come back, I'm like, what the hell? Oh, blonde. Not to mention, this is the color of my natural hair. So, it is kind of weird to see what I would look like if I didn't mess with my hair. That being said, both Mr. Moe and I agree that we don't like the blonde.
We'll see photos of Charles's injury, photos of the crime scene, and hear testimony that will prove that this was not self-defense. As we go through this trial, you'll be provided with phone calls, emails, text messages, and hear testimony that lays out the motive for this murder: money and Chad Daybell. You will see text messages and hear from people who Lori trusted and who were later pushed away, people who really don't want to be part of this trial, but were pulled into it by this defendant and her desire to get rid of Charles to be with Chad. People who heard Lori for months saying Charles was gone, possessed. People who will establish that this murder was premeditated. You will hear text messages from July 9th by Lori to her brother, Alex Cox, that he had to stay near her, that it was all coming to a head, and she would be like Nephi, and so would he. A justified killing, just like the prophet. And later, the text message to Chad where she told him that Charles changed the life insurance policy before they got rid of Ned. A confession by Lori of how religion and money were twisted to justify.
Oh, thank you so much, Santiago Garcia Jr. See, the problem is I have to hide this from my mother because every time I wear a blonde wig and send it to her, she's like, It's a shame what you do to your hair. I mean, not like that, but she's like, you look so much better as a blonde. I think it's because, and of course, as all things with mothers and daughters, my red hair started out as a rebellion against my mother because my mother, she likes being blonde and she looks beautiful as a blonde. I think she'd look beautiful as brunette or any hair color if I'm 100% honest. But she spends a lot of money to be blonde because her hair is darker. So it's so funny how we always want to be, opposite of what we have. And I always try to remember that with my daughters, although I will say just between you, me, and, the rewatchers, being on the mom side of teenagedom is not as fun as I thought it would be. Again, having grace for your kids, remembering that, you know, teens are so self-focused and it's totally normal. So, even while you're trying to guide them into being bigger people, and sometimes your only communication is, hi, how was your day? And then you get yelled at for not, being involved in their lives. It's a bit hot and cold. So, I get it. I get that. I remember that's the grace that you get with wisdom for the most part, and age is that you can kind of remember how it felt to be a teenager, but feeling how it feels to be the mom on the other side and to have grace and take that moment and say, it's it's mostly not personal, and taking that and not reacting, rashly or, escalating and just saying, okay, she's having a bad day. That's fine. So I will say it's not as comfy on this side as I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to, be like Yoda and say, there is no try. There is only do. I was going to be like this wise font of motherly wisdom. And then my children realized I was a closeted theater kid, and any wisdom I could impart was probably going to be weird. That being said, I am a quite kooky person, so I don't take it personally when I greatly embarrass them. It's my job.
Charles's murder. At the end of this trial, the state will come to you and ask you to hold the defendant responsible for the death of Charles Vallow and find her guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Thank you.
All right. Will the defendant be giving an opening statement? Okay, because of the lunch hour, your opening statement will start after lunch. I'm going to excuse the jury for lunch. I'm going to ask juror 3 to stay back. I need to talk to you about something. Please.
I wondered why that was so long, and then sometimes I should look at things and see if there's cuts and such. Again, if Trey Gowdy and oh gosh, what's his face? DeSantis had a baby, it would be this judge. Go back. Tell me I'm lying. Also, I really like that hairdo. Usually I don't like the greased back look, but it just works for him. It's kind of retro and I like it. I imagine him smoking a cigar and having a martini. Now, welcome to Mo Gives Everyone a Backstory in Headcanon, because this is what I do all the time. Monty G, I did not. I will tell you guys that Karen days are long, and a lot of, with this rain, I basically get off stream, attempt to help Mr. Mo with dinner, and then either take a very long bath or just go to bed. Oh gosh, what? And you say, stay. That song is such an earworm. I mean, it's a beautiful song. I love it. Like when I'm in a 90s mood, I totally love her. Lisa Loeb, Tori Amos, Alanis Morissette, all the Angry Girls, Fiona Apple, Sarah McLachlan. Like when I'm in a 90 girls, but that song, Lisa Loeb, absolutely sticks in your brain like a parasite for at least 3 days. So you have to use it sparingly, like once or twice a year. Oh, I'm going to be smart.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I have been charged with a crime.
Oh, let me take her down from Chipmunk because she's actually normal speed. And thank you so much, Sarah. I will tell you that this is my natural color, and it's always so weird to see me in my own natural color because red is my unnatural natural color, if that makes any sense. And there you go. Well, I mean, I don't like to complain, Monty G. Honestly, it really does take my mind off a lot of things when I'm streaming. So I love streaming, and a lot of a lot of my drive to do these kind of fun streams and things like this and maybe be Mo up to level 15 is because there were so many creators who did this for me when I was having a bad day, when, you know, at first, and it is, you know, right around the time that Rittenhouse happened, you know, Ricada, the kind of funniness, the sarcasm, that got me through a lot of dark days when I was like, oh my gosh, what is my life now? And I totally, every time I do a stream, go in with the mindset, I want to pay that forward because so many people, so many creators did that for me. And, you know, then I get to also be weird. So, you know, I try to put a humanitarian mix on it. I'm like, we are the world. We are the children.
A serious crime. And the only question here is, did I commit this?
The only question here is, did I commit this crime? Again, I do feel like she has a much lower, not as low as me. Again, I'm more of an alto. I will never be a soprano. And she has more of a soprano voice, but I do think that the real Lori has a lower register. I think she really heightens up, you know, it's called the Disney princess voice. It's, you know, always be kind, always be sweet. Again, and I have only done a cursory, you know, look into the LDS faith, but for women, the highest honor you can have is being a supportive, submissive, godly wife and mother. You are sort of the, you know, hearth holder. Women aren't allowed to hold priesthoods. Women are. So I'm not going to lie to y'all. One day in basic, one Sunday in basic, you could go to like you could go to different churches and usually they'd have good food. Not gonna lie, I followed my LDS friend to her church because, again, good food. Okay, again, I cannot explain to you. In basic, you have about 5 minutes to eat. As a person that likes very strategically, you know, separated food, I can tell you when cooks, and I totally get it, don't get me wrong, when cooks are feeding a bunch of grunts, you know, they're not going to be real cool about that placement, even if the tray is separated, which, how can you be that? Anywho, went to the LDS, you know, meeting because totally wanted good food. And so pre getting food, I had to sit through this thing, and they started talking about golden plates and secret languages and different things. And I was kind of like, okay. But basically, it's a very patriarchal religion. Men hold the priesthood, the godhead. So basically, to be a good Mormon wife is to, support your husband, demure to your husband. He is the head in all things. So it is that the sweet, the happy, the Disney princess, the very, swallow that anger. Anger is ungodly. Don't. And look, again, as I have said a gajillion times, but I know if this ever blows up, there's going to be so many people in the comments. How dare you talk about Mormonism? You don't know it and you don't know stuff. For the gajillionth time, no, I don't. I don't know everything, but from a 50,000 foot observation and having gone to a meeting all of once, how does she do? Seriously, I feel like a toddler. Anywho, there is only, one way for a woman to attain, and get into heaven, and that is to be a good wife. So much so that, they have a practice of baptizing unwed, past relatives, mostly female relatives. So basically, they will have spiritual, look, allegedly, from what I understand, you can proxy baptize people, ancestors. I don't know. Look, like most religions, to really understand them, you almost have to be born into them or deeply committed to learning them to go find that. And honest to God, I think we need to stop, all this messing around like you do this way and you don't say Jeebus this way. Can we just understand that simply like audio learners, visual learners, youngest, most feral is the weirdest learner I have ever met. He just looks at something and has done nothing, and then he can put things together. So I don't know if he's a visual or anything, but can we accept that people will find God, the universe, in their own way and not criticize because, the Catholics do this and the Mormons do this, and just say, for the love of Cheetos, find your own way. Just like some people like rap and some people like country, I have never understood, the difference between Protestant and Catholic. Honestly, transubstantiation, consubstantiation, y'all are about the same damn thing. Stop it. But I have said my piece on randomness. Let's go back to Princess Voice Lori. I'm sorry, Lori at Law. I'm surprised TLC didn't do Lori at Law.
Crime. Conspiracy. Conspiracy is an agreement between two or more people to commit a crime. Okay, so you see here. Okay. There has to be an agreement. There has to be a plan. The evidence in this case will show that Charles Vallow and I got married in February 2006. It will show that it was.
Actually, if I had a time machine, I would go back in time and tell Charles to run. Run, Charles, run. Run like Forrest Gump, okay? Run across the country. Run like when he was sad about Janae, okay? I'd give Charles like $15 and say, run. Look, I'm from the future. You're not going to believe me, but here's a YouTube video I done saved, downloaded on my phone because I don't think YouTube would have it back then. So I'd be like, look at this. Okay, this is what I'd have a bunch of videos. And I'd be like, shh. And he'd be like, thank you so much. I'm a leave right now. And I'm like, sir, I don't know who needs to tell you this, but even if you adopt JJ as a single parent, you will be awesome. That's what I would do. Among my many trips back in time. Of course, here's the problem. I probably explode the timeline trying to fix things.
My fourth marriage and Charles' third marriage. At that time, we each had 2 children. I had Colby, who was 9, and Tylee, who was 3. Charles had Cole, who was also 9, and Zach, who was 7. The evidence will show that our family moved from Austin.
The evidence will show that this thunder cow, this absolute maggot feasting on the dead corpse of a butt monkey. Absolutely pillaged every single asset that Charles was going to leave to his sons. Now, I don't know. She's already low, but how can you go so low as to take? Charles was a fan of fairly expensive watches, and he had promised to give them to his son should anything ever happen to him. You know, kind of those random conversations that you have when, you know, it just comes top of mind kind of thing. So the sons, you know, after getting this, like, hey, sorry to bother you, you know, not to worry, if you know, you know, but your dad is dead. I mean, who in the flippin' flapjack does that? I mean, I don't care if you are the holiest being on earth or the, you know, dumbest criminal ever. Who in the hell can call themselves a goddess of light and tell two young men that their dad passed away in a text? Like, the unmitigated entitlement. I just, in the name of flippin' flapjack Fritos, I swear to goodness, if I were in charge of things for just 1 month, there would be, I would get Greenland, I would make someone else pay for it, or look, honest to goodness, Denmark doesn't want Greenland. Just give it to us on clearance. And then we would play Hunger Games with Lori, Letitia, let's see, all the Adelsons. Look, all of them. Look, you're all just guilty. Let's see, Daryl Brooks. Who else? We would have a roster. I don't know if I want to keep Shabusiness because she's funny. Actually, I think Shabusiness would win, so we might have to put her in at the end. Anywho, I'm just saying Hunger Games. And if anyone, you know, gets pissed off, we just say, sorry, this ain't Geneva.
Austin, Texas to Chandler, Arizona in 2009.
Oh, hells yes.
The evidence will show that Charles and I adopted our great
Holy shit. I need to do a side-by-side of Lori and Sarah because, as we all remember, Sarah has Sudoku'd herself into I am golden. And I forgive all of you for not realizing that I have forgiven me. And in the end, my forgiveness to me is the most important. Believe that. I need to get back to Sarah Boone. I will say that I've got a lot of documents from the family court, but they're all motions, and I need to find the letters and all that crap. And I also need to make sure that there's nothing that will, oh gosh, there's nothing that will out, you know, the son and Ryan. I don't want to do anything to cause any more chaos in their lives, because as much as I have fun with Sarah, you know, this is her family court case, so I've been on the fence on doing it. That being said, it's Sarah, and she's probably written like a flagillion cases. Shabusiness must be the oh my god. Okay, this is how my mind works, you guys. I have no control over this. So, Tammy Fayette, thank you for the super chat. Shabusiness must be the predator in our On Greenland Hunger Games. Okay, here is all I'm thinking. So, replay the entirety of Predator, where, you know, Arnold and what, oh gosh, he just passed away and I've forgotten his name. Arnold and what's his face, you know, shake hands, and you finally see, you know, the Predator unmask himself, but it's really Shabusiness, and he's like, you are one ugly son of a blip. So that's why I'm laughing, because I just replaced the Predator with Shabusiness right before she does that. So, There you go. That's how my mind works.
Nephew, JJ, who was born in 2012. It will also show that Charles and I were married for over 13 years and were raising 5 children. The evidence will show that I was a licensed cosmetologist and worked as a hairstylist for 20 years while we lived in Austin, Texas. The evidence will show that Charles was a licensed life insurance salesman and worked as an independent contractor, selling life insurance policies and annuities, and owned his own business. The evidence will show that Charles and I purchased life insurance policies early in our marriage, and Charles had them issued to the maximum amount possible to each of us. The evidence will show that Charles was 17 years older than me, and that because of Charles' age and an issue that he had with high blood pressure, the maximum amount of life insurance that could be approved for Charles was $1 million. The maximum amount of life insurance that I could be approved for because of my age and my health was $2 million.
Sorry, youngest most feral shares a wall with this room, and he is always. I don't know how one can. Okay, this baby ponytail is redonkulous. I don't know how one can make a sound like a falling elephant when getting out of bed, but my son achieves this on a regular basis. So, here's the weird thing to me. Now, it makes sense that Charles has $1 million, given that, or the highest maximum amount, given that he is the breadwinner in the family, and should he pass away, it would, yes, and I meant Carl Weathers. Thank you, chat, for your collective wisdom. So he is the breadwinner. It's so ridiculous. I hate everything about this baby ponytail. So it makes sense for him to have a lot of coverage. What doesn't make sense is for her to have double the coverage he has. When even if she was a high profile hairstylist, I doubt she's bringing in the same amount of money as Charles. And if she were to pass, her obligations or the things that she left behind wouldn't be as big as Charles. I don't know. None of that made sense to me, but it only makes sense because Lori thought that she was worth more.
The evidence will show that throughout our 13-year marriage, that we always had life insurance policies. When a 10-year policy lapsed, Charles would shop for another company who would approve us for the maximum amount of life insurance. The evidence will show that this was Charles' job. This is what he did. I helped him in this business, and this is what he did. The evidence will show that in 2016, Charles repurchased.
Okay, I have a question, and I really would like to talk to people that aren't, let's say, biased. But did she just do a 180 when she met Charles? Or was she showing signs of going nutso before she met, not Charles, Chad, daggone it? Because a lot of people that I've heard, again, I maybe went way too into this case because she just pissed me the hell off. And I mean, who doesn't love a good doomsday cult? But it never made sense to me that, again, she went from normal. She never had any episodes of, kind of losing touch with reality or going into fantasies, because the way people talk, she was normal, met Chad, became a translated being in a very short time. Now, it could be, and look, I'm not a licensed psychologist, so the Goldwater rule does not apply to me, but there is something called folie à deux. Now, it is also a bad Joker movie that they made a musical for some reason known only to them and God, and possibly Satan. More Satan than God, I'm guessing. So the sort of clinical term or psychological term is called folie à deux, where two people become so close that they actually share kind of a shared delusion. The Slenderman killers, Morgan, oh gosh, Morgan Geyser and the other one, they were kind of shown to have a folie à deux. Now, Morgan actually did have early onset juvenile, or at least early juvenile schizophrenia as well. So it's, look, again, why the hell, look, let's logic this out. Let's take the Petty Express logic test. So you're telling me, okay, Jesus is coming back. He needs saints on earth to fight the holy war. And he picks the weirdest, most goofy, dingusy person to be his, shepherd and find his saints. You're telling me God had every opportunity to pick any other prophet, and he picked Chad Dorkbell. He was like, nope, 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 human thumb. It's the same reason I don't believe in Joel Osteen. Epstein? No, Osteen. Look, if God wanted to send his prophet down, he would not let him have a mullet. Again, change my mind. But if he was really the mouthpiece of God, like he says he is, God would told him not a mullet. And it definitely not a Jerry curl mullet. Like, you add the perm to it, like, why? Look, there are some people that upon first meeting or first looking at them, I get the instant ick. So I have, full disclosure, never, met Joel Osteen, don't know him. Perhaps he is a super nice person when he's not bilking people of their money for Jesus. Kind of ick. But just looking at him, something deeply unsettles me about him. And I feel bad because I've never met him, so it's prejudgment. My body's like, no. My lizard brain is like, get out of here. My lizard brain is like, do not be like all of those stupid idiot heifers in the horror movies. You get this feeling, you get out.
Just a new $2 million life insurance policy on me, and he was the sole beneficiary. The evidence will show that Charles and I had a happy marriage for 13 years. That he was, in fact, a baseball player, and that he played high school, college ball, and AAA ball, and that he was, in fact, a left-handed pitcher, a southpaw, they call him, but he was a right-handed batter, as could be attested to by anybody who knew Charles well and his high school baseball coach, Greg Davis. The evidence will show that Tylee was, and in 2014, our family moved from Chandler, Arizona to Kauai, Hawaii. We lived there for 3.5 years and returned to Chandler in 2017. The evidence will show that Tylee was 3 years old when Charles and I got married, and that when she became a teenager, the relationship between Tylee and her stepfather, Charles, became so difficult that Tylee and Charles had to seek a therapist, a family therapist, to stop them from fighting. The evidence will show that together, Charles and Tylee met with this therapist after we moved back to the mainland in 2017. The evidence will show that in April of 2018, Tylee's biological father passed away from a heart attack. And at that time, Charles called Social Security and made an appointment at the Social Security
I'm going to
office.
object to hearsay.
Sustain.
It will show that we did get Social Security for Tylee for her deceased father until she was 18.
Okay, wait, I have to go back. I was, just family coming in and checking out, so I wasn't able to. So, along with also being a terrible thunder cow to her stepchildren, which is heartless and soulless, I will never, ever understand the absolute flippancy that she gave to Tylee's father's death. Now, I understand, and again, there are allegations that he was gross to allegations with Lori's older son, Colby. Now, I do think, and then this is just the 50,000-foot view, I do think that Lori is manipulative. I think she had already picked Charles out as her new person. I think this is a pattern for Lori. So I think she found a way to break free of, Tylee's father with these allegations that were never substantiated. I do want to point that out. Filled Colby's mind with things allegedly. Again, this is a $50,000 view or 50,000 mile view. And she, turned her daughter against him and her own brother to the point that Alex Cox actually, tased him in the parking lot and got, I think, a felony charge. So they did look into it. The state of Arizona did look into Tylee Ryan's father's death. Now, he did have a history of heart issues. He was not found until several weeks after he passed. So the body was so degraded. Joe Ryan. I always want to say Jake Ryan because of 16 Candles. And also, Jake Ryan. Yes, I would marry you. So, there were some questions, but the body was so degraded that they really could not tell anything. Now, look, I will always have my doubts. This is just me, speculation station here. I will always have my doubts that there wasn't something nefarious done. That being said, I can't prove it, so it's all allegedly, but I just think it fits too nicely into Lori's desire to tie up loose ends. When she, at least in my opinion, my armchair psychology, once she has picked out a new stallion out of the herd, she wants absolutely no ties from, this other one. She's had to deal with ties with her last relationships. When you have a child with someone, you have to have ties with them. Well, how does one remove all their ties? Well, if one's partner is no longer alive, then there are no ties. Now, that is a stupid and infantile way of thinking because absolutely, you are still going to have ties. You are going to have connections through those children with that other side of the family. There are going to be constant reminders. And Lori's gone through that before. I think Lori was ready to be someone's sole focus center of attention. I think Lori needed a lot of validation, a lot of attention. And, since she found this man that basically called her a goddess, basically made an entire doomsday freaking cult around her. And this fed her freaking ego. And, very, very interesting that, again, Lori wanted to be Lori and not a mom and everything else. And she, again, wanted that. She is very much a sunshine plant. She wanted all that attention. She thrived on it. She loved it. And what is, motherhood when you can be a goddess? Motherhood is nothing but, baggage that you carry, a duty and obligation that is, beneath you. You're a translated being. You don't need that anymore. And, oh, here comes a perfect excuse. Both of my children are dark. Well, the only remedy for that is conveniently them not being here anymore. Again, how she can sit here with a straight face and try to say she's not a part of any of this is just fascinating to me.
Tylee's biological father passed away from a heart attack. And at that time, Charles called Social Security and made an appointment at the Social Security
I'm going to
office.
object to hearsay.
Sustain.
Hey, Lori, here's a non-lawyer lay tip from a person who's watched a bunch of trials and only the tip. You can't say what other people did or what other people say. That's actually called hearsay. Now, according to many lawyers who have actually gone to like lawyerology school, hearsay objections are many and varied, and there's subsections to subsection to quad sections to B sections. So there are many ways to have a hearsay objection, but the most, obvious one is when you try to say what someone else said.
It will show that we did get Social Security for Tylee for her deceased father until she was 18 years old, and she was 15 years old at the time. The evidence will show that Charles and Tylee's fighting increased greatly in January of 2019 when Charles and I temporarily separated. The evidence will show that several people witnessed these terrible arguments between Tylee and Charles that increased to physical in 2019. Charles and Tylee had major increasing arguments.
Now, there's also another aspect that has always kind of intrigued me about this relationship with Tylee and her mother. Lori Vallow strikes me as someone who is very, very focused on appearances, very focused on outward appearances, looking like the perfect mom, being toned, being, outwardly beautiful, poised, bubbly, very positive. And it strikes me as I do wonder often if there was a lot of friction because Tylee was, curvy. Tylee didn't exactly look like her mom, and it didn't seem like she seemed like in every picture I've seen and, video, she seems very comfy in herself. And I'm so glad because I'm thinking that Lori didn't waste any opportunity to drag Tylee down about that. I wonder if the tension was not between Charles and Tylee, but with Lori and Tylee, because there is an undercurrent of disappointment, constant embarrassment, constant, derision when you don't stand or when you don't measure up to a very image focused parent. There's that constant, you'd be so pretty if you just lost X. Or, those clothes would fit so much better if you would just, are you really going to have seconds of that? Oh goodness, that pattern is great, but it would you should lose weight. I mean, these little backwards digs, I do wonder if the tension was not well, first the source is fucking Lori. So, I mean, consider the source. First rule in true crime, consider the source. So it is Lori. So Lori is a projectionist. So if there is any way to denigrate Charles and make herself look more, innocent and holy, she is going to push that tension. I have always wondered if there was a great deal of tension because Tylee, again, at a really young age, at 15, realized and heard her mother say that the man that was her father, again, regardless of what you fucking feel about your partner, you could wish that they step on Legos every morning and wake up to, the trots like they had eaten White Castle. You could dislike them with the passion of a billion suns. But if you have a child with them, that is that child's father. And look, I haven't been a saint about this. I am not going to lie. But when I sat down and thought about it, I realized and I made a rule right then and there. No matter what, I'm not going to talk bad about my kid's dad. Because that's their dad. And every person should deserve to have a dad that they can, again, just that is 50% of them. You curse, you degrade, you denigrate. That child's going to think, well, gosh, if you hate them so much, are you going to hate me? Because that's how kids think. They're so linear. Or unless you're me, you're nebular, but they internalize everything. So when they hear you bad mouthing your partner, they're going to think, gosh, I wonder if they're going to, mom's love is conditional, dad's love is conditional. If I do something to piss them off, they can take it away and they'll hate me too. And if you don't think that kids have that sort of, logic and, equation, again, love your kids more than you hate your partner. Even if it kills you, even if you have to go into the bathroom and scream, don't. Don't, degrade your partner in front of your kids. At least that's my life wisdom. Have I always been the best? No, I am human. Mo is human, human, human. More human than most and more clumsy than most. But when I learned something, I like to pass on the wisdom. Okay, let's listen to more of this heifer just, do whatever instead of lawyer.
In February of 2019, one of March in 2019, which was captured on video, one in May of 2019, one in June of 2019, and then the worst of all in July 2019. The evidence will show that in March of 2019, Charles pulled JJ out of his special school and moved him to Houston, Texas, while we were temporarily separated.
Ever, because you went to Hawaii or wherever the hell you went in your translatedness with Tylee and basically left JJ all by himself. I love how she's like, and his own volition and to, terrorize and shock and horror. Lori, do you know Jen? Just asking as a question. Yeah. Again, you left your son, abandoned your son, and then are like, oh my God, for shame, he has abandoned me, and he has stolen my child, fruit of my heart, if not my womb. I mean, frankly, Scarlett, frankly, Lori, I don't give a damn.
Tylee and I then joined Charles and JJ in Texas in April 2019 to reconcile. The evidence will show that JJ was diagnosed with severe autism when he was 3 years old while we lived in Hawaii. The evidence will show that for 2 years, JJ was attending a school in Gilbert, Arizona, a special school for children with autism. It's called Lauren's Life Academy. The evidence will show that in June of 2019, in JJ's best interest, Tylee, JJ, and I moved back to Chandler, Arizona to re-enroll JJ back in Lauren's Life Academy since he had a difficult time with the Houston, Texas schools with no...
Okay, here's the problem with all that she's lying about now. I do believe Kay Woodcock is going to say that while JJ was not as verbal, maybe not as high functioning as someone with Asperger's, they had been very, for whatever reason, and, at least as sad and tragic as this sounds, at least for, several years, JJ got to have a mom, a version of Lori that was attentive, caring, and considerate, and really got him interventions at a young age. So the problem is that he was actually fairly good at communicating. Yes, he still had autism. Yes, he wasn't going to always be talkative. But with, early interventions, a special school, and a service animal, JJ, with a cursory glance or with other children, you wouldn't maybe notice that he has autism right off. So for her to say he was severely autistic, again, ma'am, miss me. Again, also, does anyone else in the chat feel like Will Smith? Because I don't know if it's just me, but there are very few times where I want to go full Will Smith and say, get your name or get, so-and-so's name out your mouth. It chafes my boobs that this woman gets to use her children's names at any point. At any point. She should be on like a TENS unit that shocks the hell out of her whenever she uses their names. it, again, to bolster, I was a great mom. It curdles my milk that this witch, again, can we bring back the Spanish Inquisition? Like, we never found a witch, but could we have the bitchquisition? Because I'm thinking a bitchquisition is what we need. We have too many female heifers that are way taking advantage of female privilege. And I say we bring back, the stocks, and you get to throw tomatoes or whatever, you know, anything soft. We're not trying to go with like brain injuries, but gross and disgusting, I'm kind of okay with. So again, I say we bring back shame. I think people have gotten a little too audacious here lately, and we need to bring back shame.
No services for his autism. The evidence will show that Charles and I agreed it was in JJ's best interest to be in school where more services were available to him, so Charles and I rented a house here in Chandler.
Charles and I is like that. Look, this Charles and I crap, like she paid a damn dime. Like, Charles and I agreed that I would have a separate house. Like, Heifer is over here, Vidal Sassoon it all the way to the bank. No, ma'am, you had decided you were gonna, bank on being a translated being. So Charles in charge was paying everything. Again, look, I am happily married to Mr. Moe, but Charles was a silver fox, and you went for a thumb.
The day in question, July 11th, 2019, Charles and I were renting two houses, one in Houston, Texas, where he mainly resided, and one in Chandler, Arizona.
Well, I've had a few slip ups. I've actually, I had to explain to my mom because she's like, you never put the grandkids up on Facebook anymore. And I had to explain to her, look, I'm not a big channel. I'm not a big fish, but my kids never, signed up to be on the internet, and I want them to have a free childhood, and people are weird on the internet. So I try to just call them, most feral, although you guys do know the youngest most feral's face and voice. I try to keep them, kind of, again, because they didn't ask for that. And family, look, we are too hill chuck, and I curse too much to do a family vlog. Not to mention, who really wants to put their hot... Look, I love my family. I love them to death, but we are a hot mess express, and like, I want that shit on the internet. Like, I'm already half embarrassed some of the times with how goofy I get. Can you, no, I don't need anyone seeing Mo behind the scenes. No.
Arizona, where I resided with our two minor children, Tylee and JJ. By this time, our three older boys, Colby, Cole, and Zach, were adults and not living at home any longer. The evidence will show that during the months of June and July, that my husband, Charles Vallow, began to send me threatening text messages. These messages were seen by my sister Summer, and that worried her. The evidence...
Your family, the things that worry your family. Let's go over the things that worry your family. A parent threatening text from Charles. Let's go over the things that don't worry your family. You saying you've lived many lifetimes and you're spiritually married to a thumb. You talking about dark beings. You completely perverting the doctrine and scriptures of the LDS Church to create your own offshoot of weirdness. You talking about spiritual, spiritual exorcisms. I mean, the amount of things, like your children being missing, your effing children being missing. Okay, half of your effing family, most of your effing family is like, Lori is a good mom, and she will tell us where the kids are. And the rest of us were like, have any of you seen a Scooby-Doo episode ever? Like, just by chance, have you ever, read an Anne Rule book? I mean...
Evidence will show that Charles insisted on flying into Phoenix on July 10th, as we've heard from the state. The evidence will show that I advised Charles that he could not stay with us at the Chandler house because he could not get along with Tylee, and I did not want them to get into another fight like they had 3 weeks prior. The evidence will show that
You know, it is super convenient that the person that you would need to validate this terrible relationship between Tylee and Charles, the two people that could say, hey, no, we're actually okay, are no longer here. That is super duper convenient, isn't it?
it was ultimately decided between Charles and I on text messages that he would stay in a hotel because he traveled for business all the time and stayed in hotels all the time. And that I would book it for him since I worked for him and booked all of his travel. The evidence will show that Charles did in
No,
fact
it's actually
fly
a
into
good
Phoenix
wig.
on
It's
Wednesday,
fairly
July
comfortable.
10th, and stayed in the hotel that I booked for him. The evidence will show that Charles paid to fly my brother Adam Cox into Phoenix from Kansas on the same day, Wednesday, July 10th, 2019.
Lori, let's examine the evidence as to why Charles thought he needed backup. You stole all of his money. You ran away to Hawaii with your daughter, leaving your autistic son with your crazy ass brother / boyfriend. Again, I'm not saying sorry about it anymore. You called him Ned Snyder and said that you were a translated being who would destroy him. I mean, yeah, I would probably bring my whole posse too. I would probably bring my mom and them, to collect my son. And if there is one thing you do not want to do is get between a grandmama and her baby, okay? Because like moms are ferocious, grandmas will go for the throat, okay? Grandmas will not play. So Charles should have brought everybody with him. That being said, I can understand why he would bring the one sane relative to try to talk some damn sense into you.
The evidence will show that Charles planned to come to our Chandler home and pick up JJ and drive him to school on Thursday morning, July 11th, 2019. The evidence will also show you that Lauren's Life Academy opens its gates at
True point. Again, as I have explained to those who are not kind of connected with the Appalachian Americans, their mom and them can be anyone from a casual bystander on the street to Bubba, the bouncer at the local club. Like, they don't have to be related. See, that's the problem that's like the one good thing and bad thing about small towns is like when there's a problem that needs to be addressed, everyone can come together. Like we will put down that, Sheila still has my good Pyrex. Not even, Sheila didn't even, I had a takeaway, one of them takeaway plastics, and she, has still got my Pyrex. Like we will put down ancient feuds if there is a child that needs protecting. I mean, and I don't keep up with the Hales or anything, so I don't know the backstory, and there was more flippin' flapjack lore in that case than damn Dune, so I'm not even going to get into it, but there are a lot of people motivated by the fact that there is a possible child involved in a very dangerous and, neglectful situation, allegedly. Again, as I don't know the Hales stuff, but people are motivated. There are, when I do my Petty Express on, kid cases, I'm motivated to get their stories out and to name and shame. There is a deep need in most of us to protect children. So their mom and them can be anyone from like Larry next door to their mom, actually, for future notice if you're not, used to small town middle America.
8:25 a.m. in the morning. And the evidence will show that Charles showed up at our Chandler residence around 7:30 in the rental car I booked for him on the morning of Thursday, July 11th, 2019. The evidence will show that Charles began texting with my brother, Adam Cox, before he entered our residence. and that Charles and Adam were discussing in their text communications that my other brother, Alex Cox, was at the residence. The evidence will show that on the morning of July 11th, that Tylee was asleep in her room and my brother Alex was asleep in the guest room. The evidence will show that when Charles entered the house, only JJ and I were awake and present. The evidence will show that after we put JJ in the rental car, that Charles came back into the residence to receive his phone, leaving JJ in the front seat of the rental car with the engine running. He was 7 years old.
Okay, miss me with that. Again, raise your hand, if you were a genlennial and your mother and or parent or father or adult supervisor wasn't, firmly huffing their own farts. So understood when you got to be like 9, 10, and they just had to run into the store. Now, this was before people, calling, and our parents had sense, like it wasn't 870 degrees with the windows rolled up. It was about, it would be a normal spring or fall day and they'd run into the gas station or run into the store to just pick up bread because you didn't want to go in. Remember when parents used to be able to do that because there wasn't a proliferation of stupid parents who forgot their children in cars? That being said, let's go back to the 90s.
The evidence will show that Charles began to scream at me when I refused to hand him his phone. The evidence will show.
Heifer, I'd scream at you. Also, then I would dead-ass tackle you. Not gonna lie. Allegedly in Minecraft. I know. I can't believe. She questioned him like they were dating. Like he had done her wrong and stood her up at prom. I'm like, the way Lori interacts with every male is very reminiscent of how I believe Amber Heard interacts with every male. So she becomes a mirror of everything that they like. She love bombs them. She, fits herself into this mold. And as soon as she's got them, and as long as they keep her happy and in luxury, she's okay. But if she finds someone that fulfills something else in her, you're old news. So she can go hot to cold really quick. Allegedly, in my unprofessional opinion.
That Charles screaming woke up Tylee and Alex. The evidence will show that Tylee came out of her room with a bat to protect me, her mother, from her stepfather, Charles Vallow.
Oh, hell to the damn no. Never in the... Get the hell out of here, you attempted Meryl Streep. The evidence will show... I'm verklempt. Talk amongst yourselves. Ma'am, miss me with this mother effing noise. I cannot with this... Tylee, I don't know what demon from Satan you sold your soul to, but it obviously wasn't to keep your looks or to get absolute, intelligence or any godlike power. So whatever you did, whatever, and again, the price was your entire family. So I don't know what you sold your soul for, but it's looking like you should probably ask for a refund.
The evidence will show that Tylee and Charles fought over the bat, and that after a struggle over the bat, Tylee fell onto the ground, and Charles lifted up the bat to hit Tylee with the bat.
Now, I feel the need to tell you that Charles's ex-wife, was interviewed, and she had a long marriage with him. I do believe it was in the 15-year range. So, within 15 years, you kind of get to know someone. And she said that Charles never raised his hand, to her in that entire time, never to their children, never. And, again, in that time, you are going to have a lot of tests of your character. So I really, Tammy Bogart, she does sound like she's testifying. This sounds like a report if you were just learning how to make a paragraph. If you remember how your teacher taught you, it's like opening sentence, tell us what you're talking about. And then you have to write three sentences about that subject and then a conclusion sentence. Like when you were first learning about paragraphs, you're like, it is raining outside. Rain is, from the sky. Rain is wet, and rain can cause puddles. That is what happened when it rained today. It's very much a person that doesn't understand how to craft a speech to get all of this information that she believes is vitally important to relay it in a narrative form. This is very much someone who has a very hard time getting their thoughts out. And at least for this case, again, she's a fish out of water. She is trying to be a lawyer and she has no grasp of what she's supposed to do. So she continues to just say, the evidence will show, the evidence will show, because she thinks that's like a magic key word. Again, she's kind of Daryl Brooksing it. So like, oh, I said the evidence will show and objecture, and there are no magic words. The evidence either shows your case or not. The jury either believes you or not. It's not like you can avada kedavra your way into, a just absolute, you know, you can't just get your way out. There's no magic word. And Nancy Hauser says, judges biased, Buzz. He wasn't impressed at PTC when she appeared like with cake face, curls, and pulled her shirt. Yeah, again, Lori has been used to every part of her life. This is probably the first time in her life where her hee little girl voice and, relative beauty haven't gotten her a pass. This is the first time she has had real consequences where her beauty doesn't work. And I think she is so confused about it.
The evidence will show that Alex then intervened to protect Tylee from being hit with the bat. He did not have a gun. He was not wearing a shirt. He was pulling up his jeans because he just woke up and came.
Again, so this is supposed to be a horrifying and, family drama thing. And, they're a scuffling, they're a tussling. But you remember Alex is putting on his pants and he didn't have a shirt on? Like all the ick. Again, I wouldn't remember this if it was my brother. I might remember he was just getting up, but I'm not going to remember like he was pulling on his pants and he didn't have a shirt on. Again, I know this fits my narrative, but ick. Again, everything's going on and you remember that Alex is putting his pants on. They were dating, allegedly, in Minecraft. Come after me, Lori.
Came into the room where he heard the screaming. The evidence will show that Alex and Charles got into a physical struggle for the bat and fell onto the ground. The evidence will show that Tylee, who was on the ground, was lifted up by me and sent outside to get away from the struggle and to protect JJ, who was still in the running car, in the rental car in the driveway. The evidence will show that after this struggle on the ground between Charles and Alex, that Charles prevailed with the bat and began to come towards me with the bat as I ran away from him into the kitchen.
Okay, now I have seen Atomic Blonde, so let me get this straight. There was a tussle, but it was so, closely in such a close proximity that she was able to get in the middle and get Tylee out, have her go out. And after this tussle, Charles comes at her with a bat. Now, I'm assuming Adam's still shirtless. Now she's running like a horror movie again, this is not a huge house. So Charles has a bat. He's a pretty healthy guy. Lori's running away. Alex has to go back into his room, allegedly, and according to him, he always keeps his force multiplier, you know, locked and stored because there are children in the house. So he has to unlock, you know, his force multiplier protective case that the kids can't get into, run back down, all while Charles is apparently in super slow mode going after Lori, you know, and he's like, "Get your hands off my girlfriend, I mean my sister." And Charles is like, "Never, I will prevail." Only he apparently pitches left-handed but bats right-handed. Sure, Jan. And he was like, "No, I'ma get you." And Alex is not, "No, my woman, don't, she's my her honor." And so he got him in the front first, which kind of doesn't explain, unless Lori was running into Alex's room, how Alex coming back out of the hallway, Lori running toward the door, that I guess he maybe turned around. He's like, "Not my woman, my sister." And Charles is like, "Oh God, you doofus again." No, fights don't happen like this. If you've seen any of the tragic body cams, it is over in seconds, and it leaves you wondering what the hell happened, and they have to play it on slow-mo. No one goes into, you know, like NPC slow run mode so that your shining white brother knight can come over and save you. Dear Lord in heaven.
The evidence will show that at some point while I was running away from Charles, who was chasing me with a bat, that Alex apparently retrieved his gun. The evidence will show that I ran outside to the children and that Alex shot Charles in self-defense. The evidence will show that Tylee and I had both run outside without shoes. The evidence will show that JJ was still in the front seat of the rental car with the engine running and struggling to get out of the car. Tylee was trying to keep him in.
Yes, because just because your son is autistic, I have found many people, and again, autism is on a spectrum. Every person with autism is going to, you know, be different. But I will tell you that just because they can't verbalize things, they notice a lot. They are a lot, some of them are so observant, and they notice very little idiosyncratic things that you do all the time. And when you don't do them, you know, it really bothers them because you're changing their normal. So he probably, again, just because he's autistic doesn't mean he can't hear shouting, he can't hear his father's voice raised. You know, this is not new. His life changed so much. I mean, again, for any child, consistency is important. And especially for children who have, you know, autism, they thrive in, you know, consistency and normalcy and schedules. And because Lori is a selfish thunder cow, he was absolutely ripped from I mean, she abandoned him with Alex Cox to go on her spiritual Hawaii thing with, you know, Tylee. She abandoned him with his dad, and then she took him back because he was just a pawn, you know, to bother his father. No child should be treated like that, but he could definitely probably hear the yelling, hear the shouting, hear the commotion. Of course, he was wanting to go and help his dad or be like something. And the fact, look, Lori, you have a lot of sins, but one of the chief ones is telling your autistic son that his dad was on a work trip when you killed him. Go straight to Hades and get the little Nicky, you know, Mr. Hunkety Clunkety from World War II treatment. If you've seen the movie, it's an Adam Sandler movie. He does the weird voice the entire time and a kind of weird face. But the ending is great. That being said, I am going to stop it here because I did promise Mr. Mo to stop promptly at 3. Let me see who I will be sending you guys to. As always, thank you so much for your support and joining me and sharing your time. I realize you have so many choices, and I so appreciate you hanging out with me. And let's see who is on. Ooh. It looks like Lawyer You Know is talking about Koberger, and since I don't know very much about that case, but I know it's a big one coming up, I will send you over to him because, there you go. Is Nick live? Well, you guys, actually, Mr. Mo is like looking at the door. I will give you guys to Nick next time. I'm just going to stick with Lawyer You Know, but you, as always, are free to go over on the internet. Go over to Lawyer You Know, I don't know, I don't have a specific, emoji in there. So just say hi from me. I'm going to go help make hamburgers for dinner because we have to have an early dinner tonight. So have a lovely day. Thank you guys all for joining me. And there will be some standalone videos and mornings with Mo tomorrow. Remember, no legal shenanigans theater this week because of family in real life stuff, but maybe a Sunday stream if I can swing it. Bye, you guys.